Okay, it should be recording. Zoe, does it look like it's recording? Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
well, okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight to Town of Maynard's Housing Production Plan update, our first public forum. Those of you that have been around a while in Maynard, you know that this is our third of the housing production plans. And so far, they've all worked as well as I think a plan can. And that means that there's a lot of information that goes into creating this plan, and that's exactly what we're going to start with tonight. And tonight we're going to go through a presentation from our consultant, who's CommunityScale, and I'll introduce the two participants and principals, I think, from the firm that'll be leading us through this iteration of our housing production plan. And also, there's going to be a chance to interact. So, for the next hour or hour and a half, oh, down, there you go, approve. Yes, I approve to record. Please approve to record because a lot of our friends and neighbors weren't able to make this, and we're trying to get it out to everybody. In any event, if you have questions about this after we're done and you run out of time, of course, 90% of you know and are familiar with our planning department, and you can reach out to us and we'll try to help you any way we can. But with that, I'd like to introduce Sarah Brent McCoy and Nils Nelson. Are you both there? Can you wave a little bit or give a hands up? Excellent. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. The one thing I neglected to ask Sarah Brent, do you want to take questions at specific points or just go ahead through the presentation and take questions at the end?
We were thinking we would take questions at the end, but we'll start tonight with a poll. So I might
Perfect.
try to do that
All right,
too.
with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah Brent. Um, Zoe is here. I'm here. And we'll go ahead and just turn it over. But if you have questions, go ahead and save them up for the end. Thanks,
Hey,
everybody. And thank you for coming.
yeah, thanks everyone for coming. My name's Sarah Brent McCoy. I'm an associate with CommunityScale. We're an urban planning consulting firm, mostly focused on housing in Massachusetts. Um, we're in Cambridge and Greenfield. I'm joined by my colleague Nils Nelson.
Hello. Hi.
Nels is a principal at CommunityScale. He's the principal in charge on this project, and I am the project manager. Um, I think before we get started with our presentation, we were thinking it would be nice to do a little poll and get people thinking about housing in Maynard. So I'm going to share my screen. Are you all seeing a big QR code?
We're seeing it.
Yes.
Great. All right. So what you can do is either in a different window on your computer or using your phone, you can um, capture that QR code and it'll come up with a sort of polling. You don't need to download an app or anything, but it'll just open up a website that will ask a few questions. So it looks like 17 people have joined. Great. I'll give you a few minutes to join that. You can also, if you don't want to use the QR code, you can type in menti.com and then enter that code.
What is the purpose of the survey?
We're just getting people talking about their experience with housing in Maynard, just getting a sense of who's here tonight and a sense of sort of people's um, goals and hopes for housing in Maynard. It's all anonymous. All right, give a few minutes for people to join. Moments. I think as I move on, the QR code should be to the right. We can come back if not. Yes, there it is. Okay, great. So on your phones or wherever you're seeing the survey, yep, I think it looks like you're all answering. Looks like we have a lot of long-term Maynard residents, medium-term, some new Maynard residents in the crowd. Great. All right. We have some more people joining. Great. Okay. That's really helpful. Do you rent or own your home? Or do you live with family that owns the home that you live in? Mostly homeowners here. Great. Why did you first move to Maynard? And you should be able to answer a few of these, select a few of these. So you don't have to pick just your top one, but did you grow up here? Did you want to be near family for your job and commute? Looks like for a lot of people, it was the affordability that drew them here, as well as the community feel and the maybe access to their job. Right. Do you plan to stay in Maynard long term? Sort of through life stages? Most say yes. A handful think not sure. And these are going to be more free form, open ended. So you can type in multiple responses if you think of other things. But I guess this one, just one answer. What's your favorite thing about living at Maynard? People, community, downtown, community, walkability. It's weird and good. Community, small town community feel, great people, friendly, vibrant community, library, small town appeal, people care, strange Maynard, bike path. Families here, you can walk to businesses, wildlife refuge, the brewery, access to nature. It seems like a lot of similar themes. If you could change one thing about housing in Maynard specifically, what would it be? Cost, property taxes needed to be more affordable. Some people say it's too crowded. Others say we need more small houses and apartments, more affordable units, more rental units that are affordable for people who to live and work in Maynard. More residential opportunities in the downtown business district. One-story condos for seniors to purchase as they downsize. Small houses, fewer rentals, lot sizes. I artist lofts. Live workspaces. Less population density. So some differences of opinion here. The sort of too crowded, less density, but also more small houses, more housing options. Live work. Been said a few times. More density downtown and along the rail trails, maybe density in specific areas that make most sense. Affordable housing options for older residents, more options for young people. When I say small houses, I mean more small houses, yes. Great. All right. I think we've gotten a good mix here. What local housing challenge feels most urgent to you? Water supply. Water and sewer capacity, lack of funds, high taxes, lack of space, affordability. People who work here can't live here. Water emoji. Housing with easy access to transportation. Large commercial tax base, TPW's constraints, water affordability, taxes seem to be some of the key themes here. Public transportation, some transportation. Great. All right. I think that's the end of our survey. Maybe we can, it'll be helpful for us to understand where everybody's coming from as we walk through the presentation. I will switch over to that instead. And we can talk a little bit more about those results at the end. Everybody sees the presentation? I'm not hearing no.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I can't see any. I'm only seeing the screen.
Yes.
Great. So we want to walk through a little bit about what's a housing production plan, what we've been doing so far, what we've found so far about Maynard, and where we'll be going with this process. So if you're new to the housing production plan process, it's part of the Chapter 40B program at the state, which is designed to add more affordable housing in communities that, according to the state standard, don't have enough, so have less than 10% of their housing stock as affordable. If you don't have enough affordable housing, developers can bypass certain regulations related to allowable density or design standards or other local bylaws. So the HPP is helpful where if you may not want to be welcome 40B projects, you may claim safe harbor and therefore be able to deny developers comprehensive permits for 40B projects. If you have adopted an HPP that's been approved by the state and show that you're either that you have 10% of housing units that qualify as affordable housing or that you're working towards having 10% affordable housing. Maynard is doing this now because your last housing production plan was adopted and accepted by the state in 2021, and HPPs have a 5-year planning horizon. HPPs have a handful of required components. They need to have a housing needs assessment. What kinds of housing do people need? Who's living here? Who's moving in? How is the community changing and growing? You need to have a production goal. How many housing units Maynard is planning to add to the housing stock per year over the next 5 years. You need to highlight some sites that might be good candidates for housing, and then present other implementation strategies. So some of the tools and programs that an HPP might highlight are regulatory changes, things like updating inclusionary zoning to match the need, or zoning for senior housing types, smaller homes, things like that. It can point to different funding mechanisms, particularly for an affordable housing trust, including CPA funds. It can identify those sites that might be ripe for town land disposition for affordable housing. And then HPPs often highlight infrastructure changes that are needed to increase capacity to accommodate more housing. So as of right now, Maynard has achieved safe harbor per the 10% rule. With one summer added to this list, you're right above 10%. But importantly, this is based on the way that the state calculates your 10% affordable housing is the numerator is called SHI units, or subsidized housing inventory units. And the denominator is the total housing units in a community. The denominator is determined by the decennial census. So for now it's the 2020, but by the time that you're redoing the HPP process again, it'll be 2030. So we have to estimate the 2030 denominator to ensure that this 5-year plan stays relevant through 2031. Maynard has a lot of momentum. You're doing a lot of the right things to produce the kinds of housing that people need and reduce displacement. You have your rental assistance program. You have a 3A district that could really be built. That besides the water limitations. You've been taking on other zoning changes, your inclusionary zoning petition, parking reductions, density bonuses, and then you have the buy downs from the Affordable Housing Trust. But of course, the question that we saw many might be asking based on their responses to the survey or to the poll, can we even build anything anyway, given the water limits? They're certainly holding back production. I think the town is having to put off various housing projects that people want to build here because of the water limits. But the town is being proactive in that the 2025 Water Master Plan outlined some immediate actions and also sort of longer term strategies to make sure you have enough water capacity to ensure water resilience and also be able to support additional housing. But all of those strategies take a lot of time, and an HPP is a 5-year plan. So Maynard will have to the HPP will have to highlight both the things that you can do in the next 5 years and the things that maybe you would like to do in the next 5 years but can't because of the water situation. So an HPP is a document that gets approved by the state. It has to check all these boxes for the state. But it's also, you're going through this planning process. We want to make this HPP as useful to the town of Maynard as it can be. So we really see the HPP as an advocacy tool as well, for Maynard to highlight the challenge of the water limits. So the objectives of the HPP are to highlight the need and urgency of housing production in Maynard, show the vacancy rate and all the different sources of need that you have. They make it very clear that Maynard needs to build more housing and wants to build more housing, but is unable to because of the water situation. We'll highlight success stories, show that Maynard has really shown progress and an ongoing commitment to addressing its needs and achieving its goals since 2021. Some of those success stories we talked about. And then also highlighting what Maynard can still do despite the water conditions to address housing need. And sort of thinking of this as an advocacy tool, really highlighting the limits of what Maynard can do because of the existing water restrictions, things that are stalled or undercut, so that Maynard can have a document to show that we're doing all the right things. We're showing you what we can do despite these limitations, but look at all we're ready to do and excited about and seeing a need for, but cannot do because of the water restrictions. So to walk through our schedule a little bit, we have been meeting with our advisory committee and the town since sort of late spring. This is our first public forum. We've been providing sort of draft materials, a housing needs assessment to them. We'll be sharing some of the details of that today. And then our next public forum will be in October. I think we'll be talking a little bit more about the strategies. And then through the fall, we'll be drafting the housing production plan for a select board presentation in November and submission to the state, to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities in December. I don't know if Bill or Nelsie will want to, or Zoe, you want to clarify anything or add anything before we move on to some of the initial findings.
I don't have anything to add thus far.
No, I think you've covered our challenges with this plan very succinctly, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A because the town is clearly at a crossroads, and this is something that we need to move forward with. So let's see.
Great. All right, I'll keep going with the initial findings. So we've been talking with stakeholders over the last few months. We've gotten the sense that there's real demand for smaller and lower maintenance units, seniors and older adults, in particular, finding limited options for where to downsize while staying in the community. Of course, we've really gotten into the weeds on the water issues and how they limit what Maynard can do in the short term, thinking about creative options in the meantime, but recognizing the need for longer term advocacy by Maynard to work with DEP on the approval process. Other themes have related to, Maynard has a lot going for it. It's a city town with a strong community vibe. It's historically been relatively affordable compared with neighboring communities. So that's sort of summarizing what we've heard from stakeholders so far, and I'm going to get into our housing needs assessment findings. But first, a little clarification. What is AMI? Why is Maynard so high? Area median income is the median income for a region, meaning that half of households earn more and half earn less. It's used for defining affordable housing for all sorts of programs, both federal programs and state programs like 40B. And Maynard is part of the broader Boston, Cambridge, Quincy fair market rent area. So they share an AMI with all of those places, almost a third of the state. And you can see at the bottom just the long, long list of communities, that inform the Maynard AMI. So the 2026 HUD area median income for Maynard and that greater region is $165,000 a year. That's median household income. So that's across if you have one earner or two earners or more. But as you all may know, the Maynard's local median income is closer to about 80% of the area median income. It's lower than that sort of threshold for determining affordability for the region overall. As we see in the table at the right, we have Maynard has a lot of households clustered in the lowest AMI group, under 30% AMI, or about $50,000 a year. And you also have a cluster of people above 120% AMI, which is closer to about $200,000 per year or more. But overall, the distribution of households in Maynard is closer to around 80% of the regional AMI. Your median household income in Maynard is closer to about $131,000 a year, at which a sort of median at which housing affordability is really tough. The typical home is not affordable to the median household income in Maynard. So as you can see, for sort of recent history up until about 2022, the typical home was affordable to the median income in Maynard. But right around 2022, because of interest rates and a lot of other things, the typical home is no longer affordable. This is compared with the state. The state average typical home price is about the same, but Middlesex County's is much higher at about $850,000. The typical home price in Maynard is, as of this month or maybe last month, is about $616,000. Your population has been pretty stable in recent years, but the makeup of the population is changing. The change in the share of your population that, or the growth rate of adults 65 plus in Maynard's population has been really high for the past 5 years. You can see that sort of top band really expanding. Maynard has 4,558 households. Roughly 2/3 of these households have incomes below the HUD AMI. You can see sort of the bottom colors are associated with lower AMIs, and then the top colors are associated with higher AMIs. This is translated to about 44 households per year since 2010. The change rate. Looking at who lives here more closely, nearly 1 in 3 households in Maynard is a single person, meaning a person living alone, and roughly 1 in 10 of your households is a senior living alone. Other trends that we see are you have an increase in the population of households that are married without kids, and you have an increase in the number of adults living with roommates since 2015. Some of these things have a relatively high margin of error, or between 2015 and 2024 have been up and down. But I do think we think it's valuable to understand that a lot of Maynard households are quite small, or not sort of the typical, 4 or 5 sort of family of 4 structure. In Maynard, about 1 in 3 households is cost burdened. I believe that's pretty similar to the rate at the state. Possibly unsurprisingly, the majority of cost burdened households are below 80% AMI, and especially below 50% AMI. Cost burden means that you're spending more than 30% of your monthly income on housing costs. That includes mortgage and insurance and utilities. A majority of your homes have 3 or more bedrooms, or quite large, but you also have some housing diversity in terms of the types. You have a lot of detached single-family homes, but you also have about 36% of your homes that are either townhomes or in small multifamily buildings. And this is units, not buildings. Looking at a few comparisons, your housing stock is sort of in the middle in terms of the percent housing stock that's single family, compared with some peer communities that were selected by the advisory committee with the town. Throughout these next few slides, we'll see how Maynard stacks up against Sudbury, Lancaster, Littleton, Stowe, Bedford, Concord, Acton, Boxborough, Hudson, and Clinton. Your homeownership rate has increased since 2010, but dropped slightly since 2021, since the last HPP, and it's sort of in the middle here as well. Your homeowner cost burden rate, so that's homeowners that are spending more than 30% of their income on their mortgage and other housing costs, has dropped pretty significantly since 2010. In 2010, it was 40% of your homeowner households that were cost burdened. But it has increased since 2021. And it is one of the higher cost burden rates out of these peer communities. Your renter cost burden rate, is sort of up and down, but you're in the middle of the pack here as well. Relative to these peers, you continue to have relatively affordable home values, but home values are increasing. The share of your households that are making less than $50,000 a year has dropped pretty meaningfully since 2010, but it remains higher than most peer communities other than Hudson and Clinton. Your median household income has increased since 2010, but it remains below these peer communities. And this one's pretty interesting, and I think can be meaningful for determining the kinds of housing that people might be looking for. Your average household size in Maynard has dipped below all your peers. It's always been lower than most of these peers, but at about 2.3 people per household, it's on the lower side, and it's really dipped from above 2.5 people in 2020. Your population has been fairly stable, as we saw in that chart that showed the different age groups. But in terms of household size, Maynard has grown, or sorry, not household size, total households. Maynard's added quite a few households since 2010. This would be in part communicated, if you're wondering why the population has been stable but the households have gone up, it's likely informed by the smaller households that we saw the trend towards smaller houses that we saw on the last slide, as people sort of break out and start their own households. Maybe children striking out on their own as adults, um, or people living alone instead of with other people. We see more households forming. Maynard's median age is relatively high to these peers, as well as Massachusetts. Massachusetts median age is right at 40, and Maynard's is closer to 45. Only Concord's is higher compared with these peers. On sort of the other side of the age spectrum, Maynard has the smallest population of children as a percentage of the total population. And while it was sort of up and down through the 2010s, we've really seen that drop from closer to 23, 24% down to closer to 16 or 17%. Among your peers, you have a moderate percentage of residents that are seniors. This has grown pretty consistently, except for a dip around 2020 since 2010. So those are a handful of the demographic changes and housing stock changes that we're thinking about as we develop this HPP with the town and the advisory committee. But that's one part of the HPP. An additional part of the HPP is having a production goal for the community. And we found that to keep up with growth and to fill current housing shortages, Maynard would need 391 new units over the next 5 years. So that's looking at units to keep up with expected growth of households. There would be 48 units over 5 years. To replace lost housing to mismanagement or blight would be roughly 23 units over the next 5 years. Your owner-occupied vacancy rate is really low. It's the ACS estimates it at exactly 0%. That's it is an estimate, and that's a point in time. The ACS is from 2024, but needless to say, it's very low. It's below the minimum stable target of about 1.5% of your housing stock being your owner-occupied housing stock being vacant at any time. So accounting for that, the recommendation is that Maynard add more housing to address that vacancy, that low vacancy rate. Similarly with the rental vacancy rate, also very low. So adding housing to address that gets you to the 391 total 5-year housing production need through 2031. So again, with HPP, we recognize that as things stand with the water situation, Maynard does not have the capacity to add this many units despite the need. And so we'll be highlighting with the HPP different sort of pathways of, if this happens, if that happens with the water situation, here are the ways that Maynard can and cannot support this production rate. I think that's it for our slides. I don't know if, again, Bill or Zoe, you want to add anything before we open up for questions?
I think we'd like to, we'd really like to start hearing from folks in the room about their responses to these things. Bill, was there anything else you wanted to?
Well, that was a lot of it.
Yeah,
that was a lot of information and a lot of questions that are pragmatic to making our community go forward. So the questions are critical at this point. And we've heard a lot, and I recognize that all this information coming in. I mean, we've been looking at it for a while, but you may have a lot of questions, so let's go ahead and bring it out.
What is a like for like conversion?
Sure. So it's one of the strategies we're looking at that would be, we've been told by DPW, Maynard can't add more um, uh, more water demand. But what you could do, a sort of creative way to add units and sort of meet the need for smaller households in the short term would be to, and sort of following that trend through the planning horizon of the HPP, would be, say, for example, there's a building with 10 units that all have 3 bedrooms. You could convert those those 10 3-bedroom units to, in this example, this is an illustration, 31 unit bedrooms without changing really the footprint of the building or the water requirements. So it would be adding units without adding water need according to the way that water need is calculated.
Okay, thank you.
I see Dan Bresnick has his hand raised.
Yeah, I have a question, possibly a follow-up on that. In the beginning of the presentation, you showed the picture of a building. And my question is that a symbol of a positive move towards this? I mean, it's obviously just one building and there's more involved, but is that the direction? Was that shown as a positive direction in your mind?
The photos in this report are just photos of existing housing types in Maynard. They're not representative of every housing type in Maynard. I think there were only a few, but it's just one of.
No, okay. So it's not is that like the thing that we want to aspire to? That kind of building?
I'm not exactly sure which building you're speaking about.
I know
Yeah,
which building I know which building he's referring to, and
16 Hillside.
yes. While I recognize it, and I recognize I recognize its significance to those in the neighborhood. I think that this was just an example of relatively new construction and addition of new units in Maynard, of which there haven't been very many over the past few years. But I don't see any. I don't think there was any normative intent on that.
Okay, because I guess the follow-up, regardless, is there any discussion, at least being part of the discussion, of how increased building and whatever affects quality of life? Because that particular thing, we could go on or whatever, and Zoe, we've talked about this before.
Absolutely.
That certainly increased the population of people living in that building, but at the detriment of people in the neighborhood. And we don't know how good or bad it's going to be. People haven't moved in yet, but I'm just wondering if the concept of quality of life is something that's factored in the bigger discussion of housing and whatever.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
Sarah Brent, was there anything that you could do you want to add anything about how the housing production plan, how the process of developing a housing production plan incorporates these things as they relate to the existing population?
Well, I think that the existing population is subject somewhat to the zoning that provides regulatory framework. And in this case, everything, I mean, I don't know the specifics about what Mr. Bresnick is talking about, although I'm familiar with his case. I think it pretty much is in line with the downtown overlay district. And that
I,
is, I mean, pretty much what zoning is intended for.
I'd also just add for a housing production plan, I think as we've tried to show with the materials tonight, it's really based in what is the local need, what are the local demographic changes that Maynard needs to respond to with the types of housing um, that it adds, that it preserves. So it's a housing production plan is required to be principally about does this place have affordable housing that is affordable to the people that live here, and is housing meeting the needs of the people that live here. So in that sense, it's very much about the people who already live in Maynard.
Mhm. I have a question.
I'm sorry, Jackie. I'd like to encourage folks to use the hand raise function, and we have a couple of people who have been waiting. If it's all right with you, Sarah Brent, if I could sort of continue to moderate this.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, that's great.
Kathleen, Kathleen. I think you're muted. Hang on, I'm trying to unmute you.
I'm sorry about that. I think just to let Jackie know, you go to react and then it says where it says react, you hit that and then you can raise your hand that way.
Oh, react. Okay.
So I just want to comment about quality of life. I think different people have different points of view about what that might mean for people, and it can get a little hairy. But my question is about if the HPP can be used as an advocating tool. I believe that's what you said. How can we encourage something to be done about the water situation? Because it's like we're stuck in this place where well, we need more housing, we need the tax base, yada yada yada, but we can't because of the DPW just keeps telling us that we can't fix it. But how, like, there's got to be a way to fix it. So can there be recommendations made around like a solution needs to be needs to be designed within this many years, because there has to be a way to fix this. That's all. I'm wondering how it can be used as an advocacy tool.
Sure. I think part of it is highlighting, Maynard's doing what they can and is unable to meet need, given the water situation. They're really doing all the right things to encourage building the types of housing that people need. But this, I think it sort of lays down in a data-driven way, sort of exactly what Maynard is facing in terms of the need that's unmet, and shows how Maynard's trying to be creative despite the water limitations, and yet cannot meet need. And so I think I can't speak to the town's sort of advocacy strategy, but we're thinking about, what are the most effective ways to show Maynard needs to build housing, Maynard can't build housing, Maynard's trying to build housing through all these different ways. But ultimately it comes down to water.
Got it. All right, thank you.
One thing I want to add as a practical note about the role of the housing production plan in our advocacy is that one of the things that compels us or encourages us to adopt these plans is that it's part of a comprehensive affordable housing or housing strategy that we submit as a package to the state every few years to attempt to get a designation as a housing choice community. And that designation enables us to apply for certain grant funding for infrastructure projects that only communities that show they're doing the work are eligible for. And it's been frustrating because, as you can see, we've been doing a lot of the work, but it hasn't yielded the number of units that even meet the minimum threshold of what the state needs us to have. So we're trying to get that back. We really want to get in the good graces because, as everybody knows now, the emphasis is on housing at the state level. And whatever you can do to show that you're doing that we're, the state helps communities that help themselves. And so we do everything we can to try to show them we're doing everything we can. Can you help us? And that goes a long way.
So helping us with the infrastructure, water stuff, in addition
Exactly.
to, yeah, got it. Thank you. That's helpful.
If we can move on to Michael, who's been waiting.
Hiya. Yeah, I wanted to comment about the quality and the size of the housing and the surroundings. Um, uh, we certainly need more housing, and and I'm not arguing against that. What I have a problem with is that we take down, uh, we remove open spaces and we fill them with these huge, you know, um, houses that, uh, I mean, you can, you can build a couple of small houses on the properties of some of these huge things, and have um, uh, uh, garden around it, trees around it, that kind of a thing. This can't just be for housing itself. It has to be for the quality of life of all of us, of the people who already live here and the people who are going to move in.
Thank you for that. That we have a little bit of a push-pull with sizes. Maynard is on the smaller side, and we do have some and we have a lot of smaller lots. And but I think Sarah, would it seemed like in your data it showed that there's a big diversity of types of housing in Maynard compared to surrounding communities. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure, at least in terms of the share of your housing units that are in,
Yeah,
single
single
family,
family,
standalone
two
homes.
family, multifamily, a rental, attached condos, detached, things like that.
Yeah.
In your experience, do you in Metro West, do you feel that do you know of any other communities that you feel are roughly equivalent to Maynard's mix?
On the spot, it's tough to say. Yeah, on the spot,
Okay.
it's tough to say. I mean, Maynard is so small. It's so it's hard to find peers in that sense.
All right, thank you. Natalie?
Hi. I just wanted to chime in. I am one of the residents who is super also aware of the water constraints in this town. I do feel like our local select board and our DPW director and our local representatives have been advocating for help with the water situation in our town, and I don't want to let conversation about that stifle creative conversation that could be happening. We all know what the problems are, right? I just want, I don't know, I guess it's just a comment really, but there's a lot of conversations about how people, I saw several comments from people saying that they don't want more rentals. Yet with our large supply of single family homes and large single family homes and large older single family homes that are not fitted for air conditioning, for mobility, for all those things. I mean, the idea that we would have slews of developers flocking to Maynard to take down a single family home and build 2 smaller homes. Wouldn't that be great? But like, it's not happening. So I think that part of the conversation has to be what this actually would look like. Because unless everyone says, oh, I want a developer to come in and build small homes on single family lots, it's not happening. And I don't think it's happening anywhere necessarily. So like, that's not what it's going to look like, in my opinion. So we need to actually have a conversation about it, what it actually could look like. And what it actually does look like is not going to look like decreased density. We need more houses. So like, I think that that's the conversation we need to be having.
Thank you very much, Natalie. I just want to acknowledge Dr. Jeff, who's been very patiently waiting. Dr. Jeff. Let's see, well, he may have stepped away. Oh, here he comes.
You got me?
Mhm.
Great. So I'm wondering how the rate of ADUs in Maynard compares to surrounding communities.
Sure, we
I
haven't
think one of the
looked.
things. Yep, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So it looks like there's a couple of trends in Maynard. Most people stay in Maynard and they don't sell their houses. In most cases, they don't because the interest rates are higher now than they were before. If you're going to sell, you got to move to someplace different, and most people want to stay in Maynard. It looks like most homes are smaller homes with fewer children in the school system. Again, I think that fits with the construction plan of the town. So schools, I think, are in line with the growth of the community. We can probably handle the population that we have now. But if we're looking to attract what seems to be single people that are looking for a more affordable place to live, I'm wondering how ADUs might play into that, where some of the properties that maybe are considered accessible to ADUs, are we using that or are we not using that?
I can at least tell you from where I sit in the Office of Municipal Services, which includes the building department, planning, zoning, health, and conservation, that we've begun to receive a sizable number of applications, building permit applications for accessory dwelling units. And that began practically instantaneously upon our adoption of our ADU bylaw. And in this case, a number of them are new construction. They are, and many of them are many of them are even on smaller lots. So it's, we have a mixture of attached and detached. It's so early since the law was changed in Massachusetts, making them by right. And it's a bit early to tell because I'm not sure that there have been very many that have completed construction at this point, but the uptick is remarkable enough to think that this does seem like something that at least homeowners feel optimistic about their ability to either rent out an ADU, sell or move into the ADU themselves and rent out their primary home or sell their primary home. Because one thing I think some people may not realize is that an ADU can be condoized and sold separately from the main house. And so accessory dwelling units are, in many cases, additional houses in all but name. We have one that's going in right now that's 900 square feet, and it compared to some of the houses in the maze that were built after World War II as worker housing, they're really not that much smaller. So, I think that we have a ways to go, but it does seem very promising for Maynard.
Okay. And then just a question about the proposed development off of 27 past Market Basket. The vacant lot that was up there that was apparently
Yes.
looking at a couple of hundred units. Where does that stand? And has the town identified potential properties to consider for development for these 391 units?
I can tell you that the 40B that was proposed for that site has been withdrawn. As far as I know, there are no future plans for development on that parcel. And I can tell you that the town conservation division does have some interest in conserving some part or all part of that parcel, particularly considering how much of it is wetlands and adjacent to our water supply and our water treatment on Old Marlborough Road. But as for your second question about alternative sites for that type of development, the site of Stratus, the Stratus campus at 111 Powder Mill Road was selected for our MBTA communities overlay zoning for higher density by right development. And we zoned that parcel, which is sizable in Powder Mill Road, to allow up to somewhere a little over 400 units by right. But once again, we come across the roadblock that we had of water supply issues.
And they talk about the old high school that we go by all.
Sorry, what? I didn't hear that.
Would that access be off of Powder Mill Road, or would the access be off of 62?
It would be off of Powder Mill Road, but it could conceivably also be accessed from the Concord side, because the parcel is close to the border of Concord and Sudbury on the northeast corner of Maynard.
Okay, but there's a proposed development off of the Thoreau property in Concord. There's also the nuclear metals property. There's the new development that went in Acton off of 62.
Yes.
And you've got the old Muse development emptying into the same Powder Mill corridor. So from a traffic perspective, have there been studies looked at where the least amount of impact might be relative to development, relative to traffic?
There is an ongoing analysis project study going on Powder Mill corridor between the towns of Maynard, Concord, and Acton, particularly where it comes to not only car traffic, but also pedestrian and bicycle traffic, because there are, there's spotty sidewalks along that entire length of 62 going all the way into West Concord. And we're also pursuing, we're initiating a redesign of the Maynard section of Powder Mill Road, the right of way. But that is a very substantial project that will probably take several years in collaboration with these other communities. But as far as siting for housing at this point along Powder Mill Road and its traffic impacts, almost any form of multifamily housing that would be proposed would be subject to studies on the traffic impacts if that project were to come before town boards and committees, with some exceptions, but it's certainly part of the approvals process, part of the analysis that goes into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there still many people in the queue?
The queue is now empty. So if you would like to raise your hand, I would encourage you to please do so.
I have to do it this way because I went with my reactions and
that's fine.
I think I sent you some sort of a face.
that works just fine. But anyone who's able to, please use the hand raise function just so we can call on you. But Jackie, yes, please.
I'm just wondering, because in the near past, Maynard was just able to access through our political representatives $1.1 million as far as water issues. And I wondered if that is something that will play into this assessment, because we have so many vacant buildings that have an issue around water that we can't, do anything with them. And when I saw that, I thought, gosh, I hope that some of that's going to be allocated to those buildings. Do you have any indication of the fact that is that already earmarked for other things like the pipes that are breaking under the roads? Or could it be something that could go into some of the buildings for affordable housing?
I mean, personally, I have to whiff on that, and say that I wish we had somebody from DPW at this meeting. It's unfortunate that we don't.
Mhm.
But as far as I know, and don't quote me on this, the majority of the funding that we're receiving is for improvements to water treatment
Oh, okay, I understand.
capacity. So it happens at the level of the total water supply affecting all parts of town, and as opposed to individual, there may be individual sites, but they're related to water infrastructure for the water supply, as opposed to places that go into the destination of the water. So
Okay, we need that too. We know that.
Right.
Okay. It was a misunderstanding.
And there may be other things for that as well, and that's why I say please don't quote me on this, but
Mhm.
follow up with somebody from DPW when you have the chance. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Lindsay, hello.
Hello. Just jumping in on that specifically. I don't know if this answers your question, Jackie, but our representatives have been securing money specifically for water treatment for drinking water. Kate Hogan just secured another couple $100,000 for us, and I think that puts her total over at least $500,000, just in helping support the water quality issues.
Mhm.
So I know that's not exactly what you were asking about, but it is kind of part of the larger conversation and the larger issue. So Kate has been fantastic for us. And I believe that Senator Eldridge is also working on something. So they are acutely aware, and they're definitely making.
He was the million.
Yeah, they're making their best efforts, to the extent that they can, to get more water, more money to help with our water quality issues and our treatment issues. That's not going to get us where we need to be in terms of capacity. That's a much bigger conversation, but it is helping kind of chip away over the course of the next couple of years. So just wanted to jump in and add that.
Yep, understood.
Thank you very much for that.
Good information.
Okay, well, I'm gonna pop back in for a moment. Sarah, Brent, Nils, I mean, do you have enough information to go forward with this? I think this was as good a level of input as you'll ever get from a community that really cares.
Yeah, I think this was really informative. Thank you all for joining. Having both the poll responses and the sort of verbal feedback at the end was helpful for us.
I appreciate the number of people that came out.
It was very good, and I think Zoe and I would. I mean, it sounds so corny, but we're proud of our community that we work for, and the idea that everybody is willing to come together and help us with this very important component of our. It's not really a master plan component, but it's a component for a community. It's critical, and I'd like to thank everybody for that.
Good team.
Okay.
Is there
Last
anything?
chance.
Yeah, anything else? Anyone want to have the last word?
Thanks for having this.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks for organizing this, guys. This was really great.
Yep. Thanks, Sarah Brent, too.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.